Let us continue with the remaining articles for the Code of Ethics for Professional Teachers. So, this would be the part two of my lecture for our final topic in ethics, that is, ethics for professional teachers. So, as we continue our discussion for the Code of Ethics for professional teachers, again, let us focus on the remaining articles, Article 4 to Article 13. In these particular sections, we will be focusing more on deeply understanding our responsibilities as educators, no, not only to the profession, but also to other people who will be affected by our responsibilities, such as our colleagues, the school authorities, the learners, parents, and even ourselves. So, understanding these articles will help us uphold the dignity and integrity of teaching as a noble vocation. So, let's begin with Article 4. So, this article, A Teacher and the Profession, emphasizes that teaching is the noblest of all professions. And as teachers, we must show pride and enthusiasm in our work. First, let's understand teaching is the noblest profession. This means we should not treat our work as merely a job. Dili lang ni siya trabaho. Di lang ni siya panginabuhi, but as a calling, tawag. For instance, a teacher who volunteers time after class to help struggling student is showing that kind of dedication, that it goes beyond time, it goes beyond compensation. Second, uphold quality education and prepare at your best. It's very important that we must continuously improve our capacity to teach, particularly in forming appropriate teaching strategies, especially for the basic education. For example, using differentiated instruction to meet various students' needs demonstrate a commitment to quality education. Third, when we participate in continuing professional education, particularly after passing the board exam, before you can renew your license, you have to show CPD points, continuing professional education points, no? Such as enrolling in seminars, postgraduate studies, or even webinars that would help enhance our competencies. Now, think about a teacher taking up a course in digital literacy to keep up with today's learners. That is very important because whatever we see in the world right now, it's described as dynamic, meaning to say it is ever changing. Fourth, this article also emphasizes seeking support that are appropriate, and we avoid improper self-promotion. If you need school backing for a project, we have to follow formal procedure instead of boasting on social media to gain attention. Let your work speak for itself. Okay? And lastly, teaching should provide a decent and dignified living. This affirms that while we serve, we should also be respected and be compensated fairly. We must value our profession by setting a standard of dignity in how we present ourselves and how we expected to be treated. No, how we expect to be treated. Okay, for the next article of the Code of Ethics for Professional Teachers, it's about the teacher, and the profession. So, in this article, the focus has shifted as to how we treat our fellow educators. It is about professional relationship and how we behave among our colleagues. No? First, foster loyalty, mutual confidence, and cooperation. No? This particular provision in the code prompted us. We are being demanded that we must avoid misbehaviors such as gossiping and rivalry in the workplace. No? Let's try to imagine two teachers disagreeing about a method. No? Professionalism demands that they discuss this respectfully, no? And not to spread rumors. No? Because at the end, there is always this disagreements, no, would always happen every now and then, but by keeping professionally, no, by respecting each other, then you can foster the so-called loyalty and mutual confidence. Second, it is also very important that we should not claim others work, no? For example, the concept of plagiarism, no, this is not just an issue among students. If you're inspired by a colleague's lesson plan or research, give credit. Don't use it and claim it as your own. No, give due credit. Third is prepare records for successors. No, what does it imply? If you're transferring or retiring, leave complete files for the next teachers. This ensures continuity and show respect for both the school and the learner. Dili ingon nga ig-retire na to or inig hawa na to sa trabaho, atong dadon, atong sunugon, ato ang i-keep, no? Because you have to remember, these are not our own possessions. These are not our property. These are documents entrusted to us. Therefore, if you are no longer there because we're retiring and we're leaving, then we have to be professionally enough to leave this record to the incoming administration and the incoming teacher. Okay? Another thing, on this concept of keeping schools and associates information confidential, no? This is a very important uh, point for this particular article, no? Such as uh, examination results, disciplinary records, and even internal issues, no? We have to be professional enough not to post or talk about this in public forums, no? Particularly on matters that are not involving the public. Okay, third to the last, reporting of unprofessional conducts only with evidence. No? Avoid false accusation. If you suspect misconduct, gather facts first. For instance, if you believe a teacher is engaging in favoritism, don't rely on hearsay. Okay? Fourth, criticism should be justifiable and preferably written. Now, you have the right to speak up, but constructively. If you're writing to the principal about a concern, keep it professional. No? And lastly, respect merit-based selection. If you're applying for a promotion, do it with integrity. Don't undermine other candidates. No? Trust the system that show your qualifications fairly. So these are the different points that are included in Article 4. Let's continue with the next article, the teacher and the higher authorities in the profession. This particular article reminds us to maintain a professional relationship with those in leadership position. So it's focusing on those who are administering the school, no? And as teachers who are basically part of the rank and file, then we have to understand that we also have responsibilities and duties over and above the so-called leadership positions. And part of that is teachers must not falsely accuse or complain against their superiors, especially under anonymity. No? Imagining spreading anonymous letters accusing principal of favoritism, that's unethical and, and harmful. Instead, if issues arise, proper procedures must be followed. Okay? Next, recognize authority, support the policies, and pursue constructive criticism. No? If a new curriculum is being implemented, we should try it out first and then give feedback professionally rather than rejecting it outrightly. No? Third, use appropriate channels in case of grievances. No? If you feel you were unfairly evaluated, speak to your department head or your principal formally. Avoid venting on social media. Second to the last, the teachers should apply promotion through merit-based system. No? Let your achievement and performance earn your promotion. No? And hopefully in this teaching profession, connections and even flattery, no, are supposed to be not there. No? Rather, it has to be merit-based, meaning your achievements, your performance for the previous years, particularly in the government. No, we are being evaluated every 3 years. Your achievement and accomplishment for that 3 years would be the basis of our promotion. And lastly, on terms related to disciplining a person, no, it should be done with humane efforts. For example, if a teacher makes a mistake, feedback should be given privately and respectfully, no, not through embarrassing the teacher, no, in front of students, no, by shouting at the students, no, shouting, no, at in front of your students. Okay, for the next article on school officials, teachers, and other personnel, no, this provision of the code hopes to promote harmony among school stakeholders. For example, creating a conducive atmosphere in school. No? As educators, we must help make the school a respectful and collaborative space. No? By showing professional courtesy and helpfulness. Now, if conflict arises, resolve it through dialogue. There should be cooperation, particularly on policies and systems, no, changes. Another thing, act responsibly in the task that you are being assigned, no? And then exercise discipline. If you're a head teacher assigning tasks, ensure that you do it with fairness and and be realistic, and don't overload a person, no? Because again, that is tantamount to favoritism and abuse of authority. All school personnel must observe mutual courtesy, dignity, and professionalism. For instance, when speaking with the janitorial staff or guard, use polite language. Respect is not limited to one's rank or title. No? So at the end, this Article 7 of the Code of Ethics promotes once again unity and shared respect regardless of the role. Now let's move forward to the very core of the teaching profession, and that's the learners. No? By putting these important stakeholders at the center of our profession. So how can we do those things? First, treat students with utmost professionalism and respect. Avoid sarcasm, name calling, or favoritism. No, if every student deserves equal respect, whether they are an honor student or struggling ones, no, struggling learners. Second, do not use physical punishment or hurtful words. If a student misbehave, use guidance-based interventions rather than shouting or embarrassing them. Third, we need also to recognize the rights of the students, particularly in relation to the right to learn. Even if a student comes from a disadvantaged background, it's our duty that they are not being left out. It's our duty to ensure that they receive quality education. Second to the last, promote self-discipline and positive behavior among students. Instead of punishing students immediately, encourage reflective practices. Now, ask them why their behavior was inappropriate and how can they improve. And then lastly, respect confidentiality of students' records and information. No? Don't disclose a student's failing grade to their peers. You have to remember that we are not just content deliverers. We are not Shopee riders, no? Or Lazada riders. No, we are role models and character builders. Now, since the very heart of this teaching profession would be the learners, then the learners have different backgrounds. It is also very important to have good relationship as to where they come from, and that's the parents or guardians of the learner. So the code of ethics also talk about our relationship, no, with these salient stakeholders, no, in this profession. And by doing so, we become collaborators, no, to ensure that our learners really achieve what they are intended to achieve, no. So it emphasizes collaboration among and between teachers and parents, no. That is why there is a creation of the so-called PTA, parent teacher associations, no. So how can we do those things? We have three. First, we establish strong school-home relationship. No? School and home relationship. Regular parent-teacher conference, positive feedback messages, and consultation, no, can strengthen this bond, this relationship. Another thing, inform parents of students' progress, challenges, and behavior. These are very applicable, particularly in the basic education. No? Don't wait for the problems to worsen. Communicate early. For instance, if a student's grade drop, call for a conference before it becomes a major concern. No? Another thing, avoid making derogatory remarks, particularly about parents or the learners. No, even if a parent is difficult to talk with, remain calm and professional. The goal is to support the child. No, no, it's at the end. It's not all about the parents. No, it's not all about satisfying the need of the parents. Rather than we go back. to the benefit of the learners, to help them realize their potentials. And lastly, we can do those things that I have mentioned earlier by encouraging parents to have active involvement, no? Invite them to school activities or ask for their support in home learning. Now, we are partners with parents. We have to remember that, teachers, no? In raising a responsible and a capable future professionals, no, in the Philippines. For this next article, particularly Article 10, entitled The Teacher and the Business, this particular provision of the code warn us teachers, and again, give us the consideration that despite being a teacher, we can also flourish in other profession or in other field of work, particularly perhaps in engaging in business. No, the code of ethics does not prohibit us from engaging in other tasks other than becoming a teacher. However, it just warns us against compromising our teaching duties due to interests, particularly, personal interests. So, having said that, these are the things that we have to remind ourselves, no, in relation to this provision of the code. First, teachers must avoid engaging in activities that interfere with teaching, no? For example, running an online store during class hour, huh? I mean to say, you can run online store, but should not be done simultaneously during class hour or using school time to sell products. No, these are unethical. Another thing, the concept of avoid conflicts of interest. No, if you're promoting a tutorial services outside school, ensure it does not overlap with your responsibility to help your own students in class. No? Third, don't use your position to influence students to buy products. For instance, selling beauty products or insurance to your students or to their parents is highly discouraged. And lastly, maintain integrity even in financial matters. Don't borrow money from students or parents. If you have a business, be transparent and ethical. No, we must safeguard the trust placed in us. No, by maintaining clear boundaries between our profession and our other matters such as pursuing business. Huh? We are not we are not uh, prohibited, wala tagibawalan. We are just being reminded to maintain clear boundaries. For the 11th article, we go back on who we are as a person, no? And that's, while teachers are teachers, we are also individuals, no, responsible for our personal conduct. A teacher, uh, here is the slide presentation. A teacher is expected to have moral integrity, personal dignity, and good reputation. For example, public drunkenness or engaging in online scandalous behavior can tarnish our professional image. Now, be a role model in and outside the school. Whether in a classroom or at the grocery store, people recognize us as educators. So set an example through modesty, particularly on how we dress up, courtesy of speech, and respectful behavior. And lastly, live a life worthy of emulation. We are role models, not just in one time, but all the time. No, this does not mean being perfect, but it's all about living responsibly. And when we say living responsibly, it's all about balancing work, family, faith, and community involvement, no? And we can only do that by recognizing God as our guide of life. Now, now let's focus on the 12th, no? Article 12, the disciplinary action. So, every unethical behavior pertinent to our professional practice as teachers has a consequence. No, the violation of any provision of this code is subject to disciplinary action. For example, if a teacher is caught leaking exam papers, they may face suspension or termination. However, there is the so-called due process. Due process. This means a teacher must be given the chance to explain and defend themselves. No one should be judged without hearing their side. Article 12 actually reminds us that ethical behavior is not just encouraged, it is enforced through appropriate mechanism. Now, do not look at the negative consequences of unethical behavior such as cancellation of your license or termination of your job. Rather, go back on why do you teach, no? Go back the reason why you are there. Why are you being called to do such task, no? As a teacher? That is where we can see that we have actually a more potential to do the right thing and therefore avoiding unethical actions. For the last article of the code, this is Article 13, effectivity. It says uh, in the code that this will take effect here and then after its publication. This is to ensure that all teachers are well informed and then can adjust or comply accordingly. This has been implemented for more than a decade already since this was released in 1997. No? It's a resolution number 435 series of 1997. So this has been implemented for almost more than more than decades already, no? So to end this short lecture on the code of ethics, we have to understand that this code is not just a legal document. Yes, it's a legal document because it stipulates what we are expected to behave, but it's more than just a legal document. It is our moral guide for educators. It's our character formation guidelines. Since we claim and we aspire to be teachers, then we need to behave and show this through practice. As a takeaway note, we have to understand that teaching profession touches every aspect of our professional and personal lives, from how we treat our colleagues to how we handle our finances and personal conduct. This code of ethics reminds us that we are more than source of informations. We are role models. And every action we take leaves an impression to other people, particularly to our students. So as we move forward in our career, particularly for you guys as future teachers, may you always choose to act ethically and professionally. We always prefer what is beneficial ug unsay makaayo alang sa tao rather than our own selfish interests. Having said that, thank you everyone for listening. Have a good day to all of us.